I don't know. I wouldn't consider E. Jean Carroll as the most trustworthy individual on events.
Okay, well, I mean, the only way to...
He couldn't remember anything about it.
Okay, what's one thing she couldn't remember?
The date, for one.
Why do you think that E. Jean Carroll couldn't remember the date in which it occurred?
Because she's lying.
Because she's lying? So, wait, the claim that she couldn't remember something is not equivalent to the claim that she lied about something. I'm asking you, why do you think that she couldn't remember the date in which it happened? Like literally, like, what is the...
Because I think she's lying about the whole event happening.
I'm asking you, like, do you have, like, a circumstance where she didn't remember the date in which it happened?
I mean, you really think that he got a fair trial there? Let me ask you a question. Why do we put a distinguish between sex and gender? For the longest time, they were essentially interchangeable, and now
I don't believe that. I think that for the longest time they've not been used interchangeably. I think that that's more recent, that's more modern. And in fact, I'd say that a majority of Americans don't use those terms interchangeably today as well, and they just don't even know that they don't use those terms interchangeably.
I would just have to disagree with you there.
Are you a Christian?
Am I a Christian? Yeah, probably not the best one, but
is God the Father a man?
I'm not going to argue semantics on that one.
Why? Because like in your Christian beliefs, you make a distinction between gender as a social category and sex as relating to biological reality. Like you say that God the Father is a man. Okay, he doesn't have XY chromosomes. He doesn't have a PP, right? When you reference him as a he, him, when you call him a father, and when you say he's a man. Like,
I mean, I'm not going to argue.
This is a complete and total assignment of like social categories of gender onto an identity, right? So I mean, like even there's an example of how even you make a distinction between sex and gender, and you just don't even know it. But I just want to clarify that you voted for fascism because I make a distinction between sex and gender. Damn.
Fascism. Yeah, that's why nobody takes you guys seriously. Is because you guys try and alienate everyone and just tell them that they're bad people. That's exactly what you do.
I mean, Alex, do you want me to like play pretend and act as if it's not crazy to vote for fascism, vote for a recession, vote for a 34-count felon that was held civilly liable for raping a woman and has distanced herself from all of her allies and advocates for economic policy that literally redistributes wealth from the poor to the rich? Do you want me to act because like you don't support a separation between sex and gender? Like, I just want to make that one clear. Like I before you pivot and talk about Hunter Biden, I literally want you to respond to what I'm saying, okay?
Okay, so repeat it.
Why weren't you listening the first time? I'll repeat it.
You got the whole bunch there, so I want to make sure that I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, when you don't understand something, you call it yap.
Yeah, sure. That's why I'm a mechanical engineer and you're fucking debating on TikTok like a bitch.
Do you think that having some type of knowledge in mechanical engineering means that therefore you're going to be politically informed? That's like saying that because you have some type of knowledge of mechanical engineering, you could walk into a hospital and perform surgery. Like, these two things are just completely separate and distinct.
I'd probably have a better chance than you. I'd say that.
Okay, well, you definitely haven't demonstrated that so far.
Oh, really? Dang. That's unfortunate. So are you going to repeat your whole spiel or what?
Yeah, of course. So, what I said in a nutshell was like I pointed out the fact that, I mean, like, you voted for fascism. You voted for a candidate that's already tried to coup and overthrow the results of a federal election and wants to consolidate power to the federal branch of a government, wants to ignore the courts and not give humans human rights such as due process, who's distanced herself from all of her allies on the global stage and advocates for economic reform that will redistribute wealth from the poor to the rich and cause America to barrel towards a recession because you don't like that some people on the left make a distinction between sex and gender. And when I pointed that, you were like, oh, well, this is why I voted for the right. This is why nobody likes the left. It's because y'all alienate people. Well, listen, man, I'm not trying to alienate you, but I am like definitely going to be honest in the fact that that is a very terrible decision, right? Willful ignorance to lash out on things that you don't understand, right, is driving this country into the ground. And I'm not going to play pretend and act as if it's anything but.
Okay. All right. So I would say one thing, I just disagree with charging, overtaxing the rich even more, because I think it comes from a place of just not making sense, of trying to tax them on unrealized capital gains. I mean, let's be real. Elon Musk doesn't have $200 billion in his bank account. A lot of that is unrealized gains in
specifically of what I said. Does this respond to?
Okay.
Because I didn't bring up taxing the rich more at all.
I don't think it's fascism.
Okay, so you don't think it's fascism. Okay.
I don't think it's fascism. I think it's playing around with definitions again.
Okay, I'm sorry, man, but it's not. It's not this time. Listen, I get it, right? There's been a lot of times where people have used very strong language against leadership.
I think
that
you're
isn't necessarily
exaggerating.
true. That is an exaggeration. I get it that happened, but this time it's not. Do you, I mean,
I think you're exaggerating.
how
That's
about
my
we
point.
go through the tenets of fascism and we see how many apply? Is that fair?
All right, go right ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, you could go on Google, you could go to Google Scholar, you could look up tenets of fascism. Typically, what we see is the 14 defining characteristics, right? We're just going to kind of go through them. So, like, the first point is powerful and continuing nationalism. Donald Trump's economic policy, which is barreling us towards a recession and negatively redistributing wealth from the poor to the rich, is predicated on the sense of powerful and continuing nationalism. He wants to make America stronger by isolating ourselves from everybody else, and he thinks that the globalization of commerce is placing America last. It's a false sense of strong and continuing nationalism. This is also where we see things such as his deportations without due process, illegally co-signing on extending bans of asylum seekers that entered into this country in the last 2 years, ignoring court orders when packing migrants onto planes and deporting them without due process once again, and even deporting 2-year-old citizens. That is a sense of powerful and continuing nationalism, 110%. And this perfectly wraps into the second point of a disdain for human rights as well. Okay, I do believe that not granting humans the right to due process and sending them to CICOT in El Salvador is 110% a violation of human rights. And that's on top of the human rights in which I believe have been violated as a result of the fact that now there's 60 great victims per day that are denied access to abortion. The fact that now he is ripping social benefits away from the elderly, from the underprivileged, and defunding our universities and revoking the visas of students protesting and black bagging them in the middle of the night by plainclothes officers and sending them to a detention camp 1,000 miles away, even though a judge told them not to. Okay, the third tenet of fascism is an identification of enemies as a unifying cause. He literally invoked the Alien Enemies Act, okay, which serves as a unifying cause for his base, because then all of a sudden, undocumented migrants in this country are labeled as these illegal aliens, taking away their humanity. They're labeled as gang members and violent offenders, even though they're 2 times less likely to commit a violent crime.
Just the
than
ones
you
that are
or
in
I,
gangs.
right? No, he's referred to all undocumented migrants with these terms. The fourth point here is supremacy of military. I mean, he literally ran on a more supreme military. That one's self-evident. The fifth point is rampant sexism. He raped a woman. She held him liable, and he's been talking about throwing her in jail and calling her a political opponent for the last 3 years.
Why did he go to jail for it?
Right? Because
Why didn't he go to jail for that?
yeah, because it was processed in a civil court, which dishes out financial liability, and he was
Oh,
ordered
so
to
then
pay her $82
why
million.
didn't she file a criminal report then?
Oh, because the statute of limitations had passed in the state of New York. If you've read anything about the case, you know this. But it's okay. I will answer.
Okay,
your
but
question.
why didn't she when it happened while the statute of limitations was still in effect?
Well, I mean, why don't 60% of women that get raped ever report it to the authorities in their lifetime? It's because men like you exist that do condemn them and act as if they're the aggressor that did something bad when they do speak out about it.
I don't know. I wouldn't consider E. Jean Carroll as the most trustworthy individual on events.
Okay. Well, I mean, the only way to
He couldn't remember anything about it.
Okay. What's one thing she couldn't remember?
The date for one,
Why do you think that Eugene Carroll couldn't remember the date in which it occurred?
because she's lying.
Because she's lying? So, wait, the claim that she couldn't remember something is not equivalent to the claim that she lied about something. I'm asking you, why do you think that she couldn't remember the date in which it happened? Like literally, like, what is the...
Because I think she's lying about the whole event happening.
I'm asking you, like, do you have, like, a circumstance where she didn't remember the date in which it happened?
Oh, I can pull up some. It's been a while since I've seen anything on that.
Okay, so it sounds like you can't. Anyways, moving on. I'm guessing if you're going to say that she's a liar, this means that the jury ruled that Trump's guilty without enough evidence, right?
In the civil case?
Yeah. That's ultimately like what the inevitable claim would be, is that she lied, meaning that when the jury said that she didn't lie and that Trump was guilty, they made that ruling without enough evidence of his guilt.
I mean, I would say that it's kind of hard when you're doing these things in New York. You really think that he got a fair trial there?
Well, I mean, exactly. If you're going to say that the jury was unfair and biased, like, once again, the ultimate conclusion of that claim is that the jury would have ruled that he was guilty without enough evidence, right? Like regardless if you say she's a liar or if the jury was unfair and biased, the conclusion of this position is that the jury said he was guilty when he wasn't guilty, which means that the jury said he was guilty without enough evidence he was guilty.
Sure.
Okay. Name one piece of evidence they made that ruling on.
That I don't know, man.
Exactly my point. Like ultimately, right, the source of justification that would be required for you to justify these claims would be having an understanding of the evidence set forth to justify what Eugene Carroll had said, right? The counter defense from Trump and the ultimate ruling of the jury and the evidence they used to make that ruling. But you don't know any of these things. You just kind of read the headlines and you discriminate against this woman, call her a liar, call her POS, call her crazy without knowing a damn fact of the court case. And quite frankly, if we want to wrap in back to our 14 defining characteristics of fascism, number 5 was rampant sexism. Sure, you are a member of the 5th pillar of why I believe that the Trump administration is fascist.
Dang. Oh, fuck. Oh, man.
So now moving on to the 6th, controlled mass media, okay, because you said you wanted to go through the tenets insofar as why I call him fascist. We're going to do it together, all 14. The 6th tenet here is controlled mass media. So he has called the media illegal, but only media sources that he doesn't like, such as CNN and MSNBC. He said at the headquarters of the DoD that their organizations are illegal, okay, which completely is in disrespect and violation of the First Amendment if he was to act on it. They obviously have a constitutional right to exist as media entities. They are not illegal. They can't be illegal via the Constitution. And then, of course, is he's now using his power in the executive branch of our government to attempt to defund NBC, CBS, and he locked the AP press out of the Oval Office, but then invited press of the Kremlin in. Okay, he's very obviously trying to control mass media by calling media sources he doesn't like illegal, locking media sources he doesn't like out of meetings where all other media sources are invited, and specifically targeting media sources like NBC and PBS to be defunded using the power he has because of his position. So that fulfills number 6. Number 7 is obsession with national security. Build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. All I'm going to say. 8th is religion and government intertwined. He literally said that he wanted to bring God back to America. Okay, that was something he ran on. 9th is corporate power protected. He wants to further drop corporate tax rates, drop regulations that are meant to protect the consumers. He's anti-union, and he wants to redistribute wealth from the poor to the rich. There's number 9 fulfilled. Number 10, labor power suppressed. I just talked about this. Taking purchasing power away from the average American, reducing it with his economic policy. My source there is the Institute on Taxation and Economics, not to mention the fact that he's anti-union and anti-labor protections. He still supports having the federal minimum wage remain what it was 20 years ago at just above $8. Okay. The 11th point is disdain for intellectuals and the arts. He's defunded universities, okay? And his entire movement is predicated on anti-intellectualism and rejective fact, okay? And this conversation is proof of it, so that one's self-evident. 12th is obsession with crime and punishment. Punish the political opponents, lock up Hillary Clinton, lock up Joe Biden, lock up Hunter Biden, lock up Eugene Carroll. In fact, lock up my political opponents, lock up my rivals. He's vindicated and purposing the DOJ with locking up undocumented migrants, locking them up without due process in CCOT in Venezuela. Sorry, not Venezuela, in El Salvador. That point is also very self-evident. But 13th is rampant cronyism and corruption. He literally tried to rig the outcome of a presidential election, then admitted to it in court. One of the most corrupt things he's ever done. He's defunded and abused charities. He's locking up judges. Okay, he's trying to consolidate power to the executive branch of our government, ignoring orders from the Supreme Court. Self-evident. And the last point here is fraudulent elections. He literally admitted to trying to make the outcome of the 2020 election fraudulent. He sent fake slates of electorates to 7 different of our key swing states that Joe Biden won. Okay, and he sent them with fake votes stating that he won the states. Then he directed them to send those votes back to Congress, and they attempted to pressure Mike Pence into certifying them as real. He literally tried to install himself for a second term and nullify the voice and the vote of the people, even though Biden had won. Okay,
yeah, no, that was bad
because of Mike Pence. So I just justified, right, every single defining characteristic of fascism and explained with great and clear detail how the Trump administration is indeed fascist in accordance with these defining characteristics. Every single one of them.
I would certainly agree with some of the things that you said, but I don't think I would agree with all of that. I think that there's bad on the right side, especially with Trump. I don't think he's a good role model, if I'm being honest, but I also don't think that everything that is being said is always. I think that it's somewhere in the middle. I'll be happy when these 4 years are up, and we can hopefully go to some normalcy and calm down our politics. But
do you have like any specific things I said that you disagree with? But it's okay if you don't, because I'm not gonna lie, I did speak for a couple minutes.
It was like somewhere around like 10. Like some of them that you're just like glazed over. You're like, oh, that's self-evident.
Which one?
I would just
like 10 was labor power suppressed.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so like the reason why I said he wants to suppress labor power is because he wants to redistribute wealth from the poor to the rich. Every single American making under $395,000 per year will have less purchasing power. Okay, and in fact, the less money you make, the less purchasing power you do have. My source is the Institute on Taxation and Economics, so there's reason 1. Reason 2 is a fact is that he's anti-union. Reason 3 is a fact that he supports decreasing regulations around like treatment of employees, and he wants to further empower like corporate entities. And then number 4, of course, is the fact that he supports a federal minimum wage at around $8.
To be fair, a federal minimum wage at $8 is more than it is right now.
No, I'm referencing the current federal minimum wage. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I think it's $7.25 right now, which is definitely low,
yeah,
for sure.
I'm meaning to refer to whatever the current federal minimum wage is.
Okay.
His administration straight up said that they support what it is and they don't want to change it.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that in most states it is way above that. Like in Illinois specifically, it's like 15.
Right.
But
so I mean, do you at least like see why like there's a little bit of validity to my claim?
I see what you're saying. I just think that.
And like, and it's not just like a liberal being reactionary and conflating issues that don't actually exist. And like when I say that the current administration is fascist, like I'm saying something meaningful and backed by nuance and reason that I could verbally describe.
No, I definitely get where you're coming from, 100%.
And I feel like that's a first step. I feel like that's a first step because when I was conservative, when I was a Trump supporter, I feel like the biggest concern in my mind at the time was I didn't get where liberals were coming from. They're just saying all this crazy shit. I just thought that they were always mad. They were always angry about something, right? And they just purport these outrageously false claims to be so extra that were so nonsensical that I didn't get at all. And like maybe an example of one that exists today probably didn't exist and maybe it did was that Trump was a fascist, right? I hear that and be like, oh God, here we go again. What did the liberals have to say today? You know what I mean? But after some years of education, some years of learning, some years of understanding, right? Well, I actually now not only see why individuals make that claim, but I make it myself because in my mind, it's obviously true based upon the information that I just shared with you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I mean, I don't think we're ever going to come to terms, but I think that it was honestly beneficial, I think, to hear your side and to kind of hear where you're coming from because I can see some of those things and concede some points on that. So,
yeah, cool. Well, I guess I appreciate you for your time, man.
Yep. Thank you.
Take care. Wow, that's probably, okay. That's by far the most in-depth I've ever gotten into why Trump is a fascist. That's the most in-depth I've ever gotten into that topic. What's going on, Christopher?
Dean, I love you to death, but you've got too many accounts. I was trying to join earlier, and I was driving. I had to literally park so I could try and join your live, and then it ended.
Yeah, it got banned.
I'm Republican, by the way, and I think you're a great guy. I think you're very informative, and you've honestly made a huge point. And I'm not wiping ass here. I'm being like a genuine, honest person. You've made up really good points here. I've been watching you for a little over a year. I watched Jubilee, the whole debate thing, and the only thing that I guess I could say about the whole group, bringing up religion into every type of subject or whatever debate. I think it was with.
Hey, Christopher.
Was it with Charlie? Maybe it was with Ben. I don't know. Yeah.
Are you driving again, man?
No.
Okay. I can't hear the fact that you're in a moving car. I'm gonna be honest.
No, that's my AC. I told you I had to park earlier to get gas. I was driving earlier.
Okay. All right. I'll believe you. Take it away.
Oh, that's all I wanted to say though. Is I think you're a cool guy. You're very informative. I'm Republican. I agree with a lot of stuff that you say, and then I disagree with a lot of stuff you say. But then again, I'm not really on the same level of, I guess, competence with politics as you are. That's all I was trying to say. I've been watching you for over a year now. I think you're cool.
You know what, Christopher? I appreciate you so much for saying that. And I think it's a good thing. You've been watching for a year, and like hopefully, there's some things that I've said that have convinced you to, maybe not hold to some of your views, and maybe in the future, feel free to request up and have a conversation about the MAGA views that you still do hold to. So maybe I could convince you on those too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, have a good rest of your day, man.
You too, buddy.